The 21st century has provided humanity with the greatest prosperity, and yet we have some of our weakest leaders, as evidenced by our cancel culture, which has devolved from our political correct mentality. Many of our politicians now are even unable to tolerate a opinion or position that's different from theirs. And in fact, you see them canceling, destroying, and kicking out members of their own party, and in addition to members of other political parties. And weakness of character now is even being encouraged. If your feelings are hurt by someone, you can go to the Human Rights Tribunal, and there can be consequences for people who have differing opinions than you. And differing opinions are normal and build a strong society by incorporating a wide range of experiences into a policy. But weak leaders are unable to cope with people differing from their opinions. And if I'm going into battle with someone, I want to go into battle with someone who's strong, who's well adjusted, who knows who they are, who's not going to be offended by someone having a different opinion than them. A weak leader is likely to become a tyrant, and they will be able to rationalize their own tyranny as moral and just. The government cannot solve all human problems or end suffering, and to think that any one thing, mass lockdowns, mask wearing, vaccinations, social distancing, restricting freedom of association, and making these things appear to be solutions to solving all human suffering and reducing COVID-19 numbers is absolute nonsense. Only more suffering is caused by not allowing people to solve their own problems within a family structure and community. These family structures and communities create a social network to strengthen people and keep them healthy. Suffice it to say that if you feel unwell or sick with any symptoms, stay home, stay away from people. But a mandatory quarantine of healthy people is disproportionate and unjust. The police target the everyday working citizens to fine them harder and to help the government pay for these spiraling costs and taking my health care by force. Individuals need to be given back their freedom to make decisions for themselves. There's no need for an us versus them mentality. It's not a battle that pits freedom versus keeping people healthy. People who support the lockdowns, I'm sure, are not against human freedom. And those who want our freedoms back are not heartless people who just want to infect the elderly. Respecting the dignity of the human person demands that individual freedoms be respected. Human freedom undergirds human flourishing, and human flourishing helps to keep us healthy. If you undermine human freedom, you are unwittingly undermining human health. When freedoms are removed, a void is created in the human soul. Fear, discouragement, desperation fill that void, which has manifested itself. Right now we see it by increased drug addiction, increased suicide rates, increased domestic violence rates. For 2020, the UN death rate was 7.612 per thousand people living worldwide. The major spike that you would have expected from a massive pandemic was not there. In fact, 2020 had the fifth lowest death rate in all of human history. Dr. Keith Moran and Dr. Simone Gold did their own independent analysis of COVID-19 mortality data, and they found that risk increases with age. And Dr. Mike Hansen reviewed primary research publications and found that dying from COVID increases as one increases in age and comorbidity issues. So I'd like to propose three things to increase human flourishing in our society. Number one, end the lockdown immediately. Allow businesses and individuals freedom to move freely. Healthy or young people are affected very minimally by the virus. Number two, stop mass testing of individuals for COVID-19. The fear that is being promulgated is disproportionate to the risk. We wouldn't be testing healthy teens for heart disease, so why test them for COVID, which is probably even rarer for young people than heart disease? The effort and money should be focused on the people who are affected by the disease, namely the elderly, the vulnerable, and those with complicating conditions. On February 12, 2021, CP 2024 interviewed Dr. Michael Warner of Michael Garron Hospital, and he confirmed that there's never been an ICU overload in Ontario. In fact, on December 15th, 2020, CP24 also reported that only 1,300 out of Ontario's 2,200 ICU beds were being used. We should focus our resources on where they have the greatest benefit. A positive test for a healthy 20-year-old will have no not negative consequences on that 20-year-old. But the resources to test that 20-year-old are being taken away and should be directed towards helping the sick people. Number 3, the third thing I want to recommend to restore human flourishing in our society is allow businesses and individuals the freedom to decide what is best for their own health and business. If an individual feels a mask is beneficial, then they should be allowed to wear one. And alternatively, if someone has done their research and they feel that a mask would not benefit them, they should have that prerogative. Businesses can choose to operate their business how they see fit, and individuals should be allowed to vote with their dollars which businesses they support. The patronizing attitude of the wealthy elites and big government thinking they know what is best for my health has to end. The government should provide information and not be in the business of inciting mass hysteria. Fact and reality should be the basis of our decision making. Thanks for joining me.